What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made these. Beautiful, delicious, smoky, plump, scratch-made, amazing skin-on hot dogs from scratch. Coming up. This is some meat. Pat it dry. And what I got here is some beef and some pork. This is some bottom round, and this is some pork belly. But you can use whatever kind of meat you like for making hot dogs. You could do all beef, all pork, a mix of beef and pork like we're doing today, or you could be like those really cheap hot dogs that's beef, pork, chicken, turkey, goat, and anything else that they have at the factory. Which is one of the beauties about making your own hot dogs, is you know exactly what goes into it. And I've made hot dogs several times on this channel. I do it every 4th of July, so this is the 6th time making hot dogs. And out of all the times, I've done several different types. You know, I've done jumbo dogs, turned into Chicago dogs. We made footlongs, chili dogs. Last year we made corn dogs. But the one thing I haven't done is just a classic skin-on hot dog. And I've tried a couple times, but I kept losing the casings or they went bad, or for some reason I just haven't done a traditional hot dog. So that's what we're gonna do today. And just like every other sausage, we're gonna start out by cubing this meat up nice and small so it fits in our meat grinder and chills down in the fridge really quick. But with a hot dog like this, we're making an emulsified sausage, which is a pretty tricky sausage to make. A lot can go wrong because instead of a coarse grind where there's particles of meat and particles of fat, this is a fully homogeneous emulsified sausage. And like a lot of emulsified sauces like mayonnaise or hollandaise or something like that, it's really easy to break an emulsion. So we really got to try hard to make sure we nail every part of this technique to ensure the best results. And it's definitely a more advanced sausage, so probably not the best thing to do if you're new to the game, but it is a pretty cool process. And typically when I make a beef sausage, I'm going to use brisket or chuck or something like that, but with an emulsified sausage, using something with a lot of connective tissue like brisket or short rib can cause problems and won't bind together nearly as well, which is why I went for this super lean bottom round cut, because it's nice and lean, but it's a little less tough with less connective tissue than some of the other cuts out there. But I've done it with brisket and chuck before and it works out just fine, but this is just gonna hopefully give us a little bit more of an advantage. As for the pork belly, I got it mostly because it's pure fat. If you can find fat back or you have some brisket trim in the fridge, that would work out just as well. But if not, some good old-fashioned pork belly. Little end cut like that should work out great. And once all cubed up, I've got about 2 pounds of meat and 1 pound of fat, which would be a pretty high fat ratio, but because it's pork belly, we got some meat in there, should lean it out a little bit, getting us closer to that 70-30 range we are after. Now I'm gonna park this in the fridge for the next hour or so to get nice and cold. And while we wait for that meat to get nice and cold, let's go ahead and get our spices ready. Starting with some kosher salt, pink curing salt number 1, some granulated garlic, dry mustard, white pepper, paprika, coriander, some mace, marjoram, and some celery seed. And for some added moisture retention, I'm gonna go in with some phosphates. And I'm still pretty new to using phosphates in the kitchen, but I see that people in competition barbecue use it a lot. They inject briskets with it because it really does help retain moisture. And that's kind of the name of the game with these hot dogs. I wanna make sure they are nice and juicy, nice and plump, and as good as they can be. And I'm also gonna go into some Sea Bind as our binder, but I'm gonna leave that separate and add it towards the end. The Sea Bind is great. It's really absorbent, a little stronger than milk powder as a binder, which is why you only need a little bit of it. But with hot dogs and other emulsified sausages, we're gonna be adding more liquid than we usually do to a typical sausage. So having a really strong binder like Sea Bind in there will help us out a lot. And also Sea Bind is the only binder that actually absorbs rendered fat as opposed to just holding on to moisture. So it should work really well for these hot dogs. And give all these spices a good mix. Ooh. And out of the freezer, our meat is nice and cold. And with sausage making in general, keeping your meat cold is really important. But with emulsified sausages, it is even more so. So we really need to make sure that this doesn't get too warm. Otherwise, we can break our emulsion. So we're sitting right at 32 degrees on this, which is perfect. Anything under 35, between 30 and 35 is kind of what you're aiming for. So now we're gonna send it through the grinder, but we're gonna keep our meat and our fat separate. I've got the smallest die on there that I've got for a nice fine grind. And we're gonna send it through a few times. Well, I just sent it through the meat grinder, but the camera didn't turn on. But that's what it looks like after one pass. Nice clean grind on that. Make sure we get it all out of there. And then I'm gonna take its temperature, and that bumped it up like 7 degrees, right? Like 40 now. So I'm gonna pop this back in the freezer before we do our next grind. And after re-chilling for another couple of minutes, we're gonna go through the grinder one more time. Little chunk by little chunk to make sure nothing gets too gunked up. And once re-chilled one more time, we're gonna go through a third time. And after 3 passes through the meat grinder, it's looking a lot more homogeneous, starting to get that hot dog texture, but we'll address that more in a minute, because now we need to send through all of our fat, which is also nice and cold. And moving really quickly, we're gonna send it through one more time, just for good measure. And now that the meat and fat have been grinded 3 times through the small die, again, keeping them separate for now, it's time to get this mixed up and then get that fat emulsified with this meat. And ideally, you'd bust out a buffalo chopper or a high-powered food processor, but we don't have either of those things. And I've tried this in my home food processor several times with varying results. But every time I do that, I almost burn out the motor on that thing because it's just not sharp or strong enough. And also the meat kind of gets under the blade and it's a big mess. But one option that does work really well, again, not ideal, but gets the job done, is to bust out the old stand mixer with the paddle attachment on there. Again, it's not gonna chop it up nearly as fine, so that's why I ground it 3 times through the meat grinder, but this will whip it up and get that emulsification process started. And again, this meat has been chilled again, so we're rocking about 29, 30 degrees, nice and cold, especially for this process. So into the mixer we go. And we're also gonna go in with all of our spices and give that a quick little mix. And for our liquid today, I've got some ice weighed out right here, and we're doing 20% by weight of the meat. Again, usually I do 10% for normal sausages, but an emulsified sausage can take a little bit more water to get that nice kind of hot dog texture. And we're using ice again because we want to keep this stuff nice and cold. So I'm gonna slowly start chipping this in. And as you can see at this point, we're really starting to whip that up, losing any sign of particle definition while slowly chipping in all of our ice. And as that ice starts to melt, it's really gonna start turning into a paste, a mousse, a farce. But I'm gonna come down and scrape down the sides of the bowls here every now and then to make sure everything is getting evenly whipped up. We've only got about half of our ice in, but it's already starting to get that hot dog look to it. Nick, do you want a hot dog?
Yeah.
I want a hot dog real bad. And after a very thorough mixing, that ice has melted down, and you can see how smooth that is, that batter we are after. Definitely doesn't look like it came out of a meat grinder anymore. So that's a good thing. But now it's time to start adding the fat little by little to emulsify in to all the beef. And the thought process here is kind of like making a mayonnaise or something where you put all the ingredients in and then you slowly stream in the fat towards the end. That's what we're doing, but in sausage form. Little bit at a time, let that come together. A little bit more in and get that all whipped up until it is one homogeneous paste. And after several minutes of whipping this all together, it has come together as one color, which is good. Although there are a few little chunks of fat that I pulled out of the meat grinder because they didn't go all the way through. So if I see those, I'm gonna try and grab them out of there, which is the annoying part. Probably should have sent something through the grinder to flush out all the fat. But now that it is all nicely whipped up, we can finally go in with our C-bind right at the end. Now that all the protein extraction has happened. I'm gonna do it while it's running though. This is gnarly looking. And just like that, all mixed up, all whipped up, it looks like chocolate ice cream, which is weird. Definitely got that hot dog color, but out this comes into a bowl. Oh God. Yummy. And one problem I've had with hot dogs that I've made in the past is that the texture isn't quite right because of all the air we just whipped into this batter. And they're really tasty still, nice and juicy, but they have this kind of airy, spongy texture, which isn't very appealing. But for this batch, I've got an idea to try and get some of the air out of this farce. And that is, of course, the jumbo chamber vac. Put a little bit of plastic on top in case this expands too much. I don't want it to get this thing dirty, but we'll see if it works. We're going maximum suck. Nick doesn't think this is gonna work. Let's try it. Oh, it is growing. Ew. Oh my God, that's horrible. Glad I put the plastic on top. This whole process is just hard to look at. All right, moment of truth. Oh, I don't like it.
That's so weird.
Ew. Well, it sucked. I think max suckage might have been a little over the top, so we're gonna crank this down a little bit. Half power. We're gonna do it again. There's gonna be no air in my wiener today. On second suck, it's not nearly growing as much, so I think that is a good sign. Yeah. Fresh out of the vac chamber, looking good. So now all we gotta do is get this stuff cased up. Ooh, still weird. Going on with some natural sheep casings today, which is the casing of choice for a hot dog. Send some water through it and we're gonna hope for the best because these are a pain in the butt to work with. Actually going on pretty easy, which is nice. Tie it off. Ooh. Snip the tip. And now we begin the casing process, which hopefully goes smoothly. Oh, blowout immediately. Good. Try that again, shall we? Again, sheep casings are a lot more brittle. Seem to have a lot more natural holes in them as well. Not my favorite thing to do. First hot dog done. Give it a little twisty poo. That's what we're looking like. Going for some 6-inch wieners today. which is average. But of course, you can make these as big or as small as you like. Check out my foot-long video. That one was pretty fun. Never measured a wiener on camera before. Beautiful. Twist it, and we repeat. And just like that, all cased up, looking nice and plump, and looking very good, if I do say so myself. So now we're gonna pop these in the fridge, uncovered on a wire rack overnight. And that's gonna allow time for these casings to air out and dry out in the fridge overnight, making sure we get some nice snappy casings. It's also gonna allow time for the salt to work on the meat, that pink salt to cure, and all those spices to hydrate, and they're just gonna be better after a night in the fridge. So we'll check back in on these tomorrow. This video is brought to you by ZBiotics. ZBiotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was created by PhD scientists to help tackle that rough morning after a night of drinking. And how it works is when you drink alcohol, it gets converted in your gut to a toxic byproduct called acetaldehyde. But ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break that down in your gut where it's needed most, because it's that toxic byproduct, not just dehydration, that is responsible for those rough mornings. And how it works is super simple. Just make sure this is your very first drink of the night. Then proceed with your night as planned. Drink plenty of water, get a good night of sleep, and you'll wake up feeling refreshed the next morning. And with summer upon us, I am very likely going to find myself drinking a couple of beers, standing around the grill, or enjoying a nice bourbon after a long, hot summer's day. But I've still got work to do, need to be productive. But with ZBiotics, I know I'll be able to tackle whatever the summer throws at me. So if you want to give ZBiotics a try, click the link in the description box of this video where you can save 15% off your first order. Again, link in the description where you can save 15% off your first order of ZBiotics. One overnight later. Out of the fridge these come, and they are looking absolutely beautiful, nicely dried out, nice and plump, and I like the color of them. But now we're gonna get these all snipped apart. And so far, these are looking pretty promising, but we gotta get some smoke flavor on these and cook them through. So let's go ahead and fire up the pit. And on the pit we go. Got these on a stainless steel rack just so they don't get too dirty. Saved a couple of these blown out ones that we're gonna use for probe testing. And we're gonna shut it down. And the game plan for this cook is to keep it pretty low and pretty smoky, around 150, 200 degrees, with some good smoke coming out of this thing. And because they're such small sausages, they're gonna cook through relatively quickly, but at 150, I'm thinking maybe an hour or so, just to get these things up to temp, get those casings dried out, and get some lovely smoke flavor on there, without getting them too smoky, because that's definitely possible with a tiny hot dog like this. In the past, I've done cold smokes with a smoke tube or a smoldering log, and we're kind of doing that today, except we're not doing a true cold smoke of sub 90 degrees Fahrenheit, but just a relatively quick, smoky cook to get these up to temp and nice and smoky. 2 hours later, these wieners are looking so good. Loving the color on these, feeling incredibly nice and plump, nice and turgid, and that is almost a perfect looking hot dog. I did come through and flip these over one time to get even smoke coverage on them, but these are looking perfect. Probably my best looking hot dogs yet. I mean, just look at that. That's awesome. But I got a few of these ones with blowouts that I've been testing for internal temp, and they're right at 145, 150. So now off the pit these come. And like most sausages we make on this channel, straight into an ice bath they go. That's gonna shock the casings, making them nice and snappy, as well as halting this cooking process, making sure that we don't overcook these things and break that emulsion we worked so hard for. Look at that hot dog, come on. And again, I was cooking at 150 for most of this cook. I did bump it up to about 225 just at the end, just to bring these up to about 150 internal. But in the ice bath these go. We're gonna let these cool down for the next probably 10 minutes. Then we'll pull them out, clean them off, and we'll have some homemade smoky hot dogs. And fresh out of the water bath, we've got ourselves some beautiful clean weenies, because as we all know, everybody loves a clean weenie. And we've also got Hot Dog Mountain! Beautiful looking weens, but these are nice and chilled, so we can set these aside until we're ready to grill them off. Next up, let's go ahead and bust out some hot dog buns, which I'm not very good at, so we'll see how this goes. But into the mixer, we're going in with some milk, our eggs, our sugar, and our yeast. And give that a little mix. And then in with our all-purpose flour, dough conditioner, and our salt. And let that all come together. And once a shaggy dough ball has formed, in we go with our softened butter. And now we're gonna let this knead for about 6 minutes. And once that dough is looking nice and smooth and pulling away from the bowls nice and clean, out it comes. And out comes our dough, looking nice and smooth. So now into a grease bowl we go. Cover this up and let this rise for the next hour to hour and 1/2. And once our dough has doubled in size, out it comes. Boop, punching all the air out. And now we're gonna portion out some 60-gram dough balls. And And then we're gonna grab a dough ball and form all the seams to the underside, pinching everything shut, and give it the old table roll to make it nice and smooth. Like that. And with all of our balls formed, we're gonna let these rest for about 15 minutes to relax a little bit so we can roll them out a little bit easier. And after a nice little resty poo, down this goes, and we're gonna roll it out nice and thin. And then roll it up into a tight little log. Pinch that seam shut, as well as the ends. And then we're gonna roll this out a little bit. Don't wanna make them too big, but roughly wiener sized. And these are gonna proof again, so a little smaller than you think. I'm thinking something like that. And once all rolled out, onto a silpat lined baking sheet we go. Got them all lined up so they rise into each other for that classic hot dog look. And hopefully they're not too far apart, but I guess we'll find out. And I didn't want to crowd the pan, so we got 2 pans. But now I'm gonna cover these up and let these rise for probably another 30 minutes. And after a second proof, these are looking pretty good, nice and fluffy. And I'm a little concerned about them getting too big, which is why I'm not gonna let them get much bigger than this, because we gotta worry about that bun to dog ratio. But before they go in the oven, I'm gonna hit these with an egg wash for a nice color and shine. And once beautifully egg washed, into a 375-degree oven, they go for about 20-30 minutes until absolutely beautiful, lovely golden brown on there, fully cooked through. They cooked it about 15 minutes, which is nice, and I think they're a pretty good size. But now I'm gonna pull these off, pop these on a wire rack to cool down for a little bit. That way we don't sog out the bottoms too much. So at this point, we've got our smoked hot dogs, we've got our buns, we've got our toppings. So all we gotta do now is cook them off and assemble some dogs. And we're gonna do that 2 separate ways. One, I got the grill fired up with the coals from that offset so we can grill a few off. But Bones over here says that steaming a hot dog is the only way to cook a hot dog.
A skin on dog, yeah.
So we're gonna do both and we're gonna see how these came out. So let's head out to the grill while Nick boils some water. Got the old Chud grill fired up here, and now it's time to get these bad boys cooked off one final time. I know I keep saying it, but I'm loving how those are looking. They look like real hot dogs. And hopefully they don't explode, but that's very likely over high heat. Give them a little flip for even cooking. Oh, look at that. We got ourselves a little char dog going on. And they're getting even more plump. Love it. Is there anything more American than grilling some hot dogs for the 4th of July? I don't think so, folks. Or is it German? I don't know. I will say though, I'm grilling these pretty hot and fast. You can see the blackening we're getting on there, but nothing has burst yet, which is good. That means all the water and fat are staying in the links. These are looking good to me. I'm gonna bring them to the cold side of the grill just to keep them warm for a little bit while we go inside and check on Nick. Steaming a hot dog 101 with Nick. What's step 1?
All right, step 1, you get a pot, put water in it.
Whew, that's barbecue right there, folks.
Got a steam basket here, there's water under there. You put the hot dogs in carefully, one by one.
Oh my God.
And you cover it up.
What?
Steam away, and when they're ready, you eat them.
Groundbreaking. Beautiful, soft, squishy bun. I mean, just look at that. Come on. We're going split top today, folks. It's almost too soft to cut. Beautiful texture on that. Nick, look at that.
That's a bun.
Yeah, dog. And then we take our beautiful curved wiener and slide it right into the bun. Oh, what a fit! And you can load these up however you like, but around these parts, we're team yellow mustard. And a little bit of some diced white onion. But you do you. Let me know your favorite hot dog condiments in the comment section down below. But I will say that is a magnificent looking wiener if I've ever seen one. How's the steam business treating you?
It is steamy.
Those look so good. They didn't pop either. That's a good sign, folks. What do you do with wieners in Scotland?
Put them in a bun and eat them.
Just like us.
So weird.
So the reason I like steamed hot dogs is it crisps up that
Casing.
and it doesn't make it brittle like grilling does.
That's a good looking stack of wieners. Okay, folks, I think it's finally time to dive into these bad boys and see how these homemade skin-on wieners came out. Boys, would you like some hot dogs?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing more American than eating some hot dogs on camera with a guy from Scotland. Brucey Worldwide on Instagram, folks. Give him a follow, but let's go for it. I'm going for a grilled guy first. It's just all dressed up and looking good.
Let's do it. No, we're not choosing our wieners.
Look at the texture on that. That is beautiful. Looks like a hot dog. Not too smoky, but definitely there.
Definitely tastes like a dog.
Yeah, that's a good hot dog right there. Nice and flavorful. Good snap to it. Definitely, I think, the juiciest hot dog I've made. You can see the moisture in there. Solid emulsification. Cook process went smoothly. They are a little dense. Kind of got like a carrot vibe going on. Maybe it's all that C-bind I put in there.
Yeah. Back sealing it.
Very plump. Not off-putting though. You want a steamed wing next? This is how you like it?
Yeah.
Just steamed with no condiments?
Give me that mustard.
These buns came out really good as well. Not too big, perfect fit on there. We were talking earlier, if we were to hang these wieners, they probably wouldn't be so curvy, but you know, I'm not upset about it.
It's fun.
It is fun, look at that. That's how you know it's homemade. But these buns are just so squishy. And we got that good meat to bread ratio, which is important.
These are definitely better than assortment buns.
Oh yeah, for sure.
100%.
Bruce, what's your hot dog condiments of choice?
Ketchup, obviously.
You're lucky Joe Yim is in here. Well, we got some ketchup. It's probably on the floor over there somewhere. I grew up as a ketchup on dogs guy, though. You know, for a Chicago dog, no ketchup. But anything other than that, do what you want to do. I'm not.
I grew up ketchup mustard relish.
Yeah,
Like the works.
classic.
But as an adult,
Good job, I'm younger than you guys.
All right, steam dog. Let's go for it. That's good too. Honestly, not as big of a difference as I would have guessed. Still nice and plump, snappy casing, juicy ween, freshly made bun. No complaints here. And it's a dog. That tastes like America. I'm definitely making these buns again, though. That is so good. Hello.
look
Get in
who
here,
it
buddy.
is.
Brucey!
How you doing?
What's up, buddy?
Oh my God, it's dog.
It's hot dog night.
All right. That's amazing.
It's a meaty boy.
My dog bites back. Really nice. I like the, you know, dog's normally straight. I like the little curvature.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Curved dog. That's how you know there's love put into every wiener.
Biologically accurate.
Evan, where are you at on grilled dog versus steamed dog?
Grilled. A steamed dog is good for like, you know, like a cart. Like if you don't have kind of like everything going on at the same time, but you gotta have like a little bit of crisp on there. You gotta have like the snap on the casing. Even if there's not a casing, I feel like a little bit of crispness on the outside. Sometimes they put them in the fryer to do the rippers.
Woohoo!
I like those. I like grilled.
Write that
I like
down for
grilled.
next
I
year.
like rippers. I like the hard crust.
That's what I was saying. After steam it, I put it in a pan fry it.
Yes.
Just like a 7-Eleven dog.
Well, I was gonna say like a beer
Rollers.
We should get a roller from 7-Eleven. Or build one that's powered by fire. We'll put this guy on a bike. All right, we're gonna eat a lot more hot dogs off camera. And with this very last bite of hot dog, I think it's time for the official taste test. Ooh. All right, y'all, and that is it. That is how to make some absolutely fantastic, smoky, skin-on hot dogs. I highly recommend giving this one a try. You know, if you're in the sausage-making world at all and you haven't tried an emulsified sausage like this yet, it's definitely worth checking out. There's a lot of cool techniques involved, a lot of science involved, and a lot of dishes involved as well. But there really isn't anything more satisfying than pulling off an emulsified sausage off the pit and feeling that texture, getting that snap, and of course that smoky bite, and putting in all that effort to make the cheapest food you could get at any nearest gas station closest to you. But all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. If you do give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I'd love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Team Chud members. Thank you for supporting this channel and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace.